You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. thechrisvossshow.com. There you go. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We certainly appreciate you guys coming by. Thanks for being here and being part of the show. We are the #1 distributor, according to the latest leading polls. I don't know. I'm just making up shit at this point. #1 distributor in positivity, imagination, knowledge, power, thoughtfulness, inspiration. Did I already say inspiration? We are the #1 distributor of all those things, and not by any sort of metric. We just self-declared ourselves that, or at least that's what I came up with at 4 a.m. in the morning when I'm like, hey, that sounds funny. Do that on the show. And then it wasn't. But anyway, guys, welcome to the show. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. A way to participate in the Chris Voss Show Glow. For 15 years, we've been bringing the smartest, most brilliant people, the billionaires, the CEOs, the White House advisors, the Pulitzer Prize winners, all of these great authors, minds, people that will inspire you, give you that Chris Voss Show Glow, as I mentioned before, take you to the next level. And that's what we do all the time here. But before we get to our next guest, who will be doing that for us today, we want to admonish you, encourage you, maybe threaten you. Refer the show to your family, friends, or relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one on the tickety-tockety, and as always, the new place where you can chat with the show, chrisvossfacebook.com. You can go to the big 5,500 Facebook crew that we have over there, and you can actually chat with us. We got one of those message things running that everyone's so annoyed by. That's the new thing on Facebook. So you can check that as well. Subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter and the 130,000 LinkedIn group as well. Today we have an amazing author on the show. We're talking to him about his new book called Everyone is Afraid, A Fable of Fear, Friendship, and Flourishing. Ron Macklin joins us on the show today. He'll be talking to us about his new book that just came out October 5th, 2023, and all of his insights, his learning that went into it, etc. Ron realized early in his engineering career that he had a passion for building and leading teams. And he realized that to succeed, he needed to build a deep network of support. He needed to learn why people connect and how they create results together. This realization led him on a 20-year journey that culminated in the creation of the 7-step Macklin Connection method and the launch of Macklin Connection. Ron earned a degree in engineering from Kansas State University and quickly grew into leadership positions in his career. Ron grew to lead teams that set 9 world records, count them, and won dozens of customer satisfaction awards. At Siemens, for example, Ron led a support division with 350 employees that worked over 5 million hours. That was just the first week, without a lost time injury, and was voted the best place to work in Houston. Damn. By the Houston Business Journal. Twice, Ron has created a growth culture responsible for increasing profits by $20 million and has led 7 different groups from worst to best in class. His new book just came out, and it's the #1 release and #2 bestseller on Amazon. In an age where success is measured by exterior accomplishments and social validation, one man dares ask the unspoken question, what if everyone is afraid? And he joins us here today. Welcome to the show, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Thanks for coming. It's great to have you. Give us your .coms. Where are all the places you want people to find you on the interwebages in the sky?
Thanks. You can always find me on LinkedIn, Ron Macklin. And then you can also macklinconnection.com on our website. And we also have a Mighty Networks page, which is imaginalcommunity.mn.co.
A lot of imagining going on in there.
Yes, a lot of imagination.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside this book? Everyone is Afraid, A Fable of Fear, Friendship, and Flourishing.
So the book starts, it's a fable. And the reason I chose Fable is because I love stories. And what I love about stories is I learn something and I don't know I learn it. It kind of sneaks in, right? And then like 2 weeks later, I go, oh, there's that thing. I see it. Now I can hold it, right? So the story is about a group of people who basically were hanging out together in college, and that's 10 years later. And they've all gone their own ways, and they're all really focused on doing everything in life to get ahead, to take care of their families, do all that stuff. But they have all these fears, and nobody talks about them. And these fears that they don't ever talk about are tricking them into doing things that really doesn't serve them to progress their careers or build relationships with their family or to build a family or to do all those things. And this is a chance for them to, well, have a significant event that happens where everybody gets to get together and look at themselves a little bit at a time. So there's all these characters that have fears, but what they have this story is they're the only ones that have the fears versus that everybody has these fears.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose of the book is. And what I noticed was the more powerful people I met in the world, successful, capable, they talked about their fears. They sat down and you'd have a conversation. They go, well, this scared me and that scared me and this scared me. And people who are like stuck, they don't talk about their fears. Right. And you can read in the book, but I had a quick conversation, went to a presentation with a guy named Bowen White, Dr. Bowen White. And he was talking about fear. And I was like 31 at the time and really not confident at all in what I was doing. And I was in a room with a bunch of executives, like 50 and 60-year-olds. And he started talking about fear. And I was like going, oh God, he's going to point at me. He's going to point at me and I'm going to be giving up right there on the spot.
Sounds like you're having some fear.
Yeah. And he says, these questions. How many of you are afraid and you think there's something wrong with you that you're afraid? And I was just kind of slowly raising my hand. And then he said, look around. And everyone in the room had their hand up.
Wow.
And so it's a space where when we can notice that we're afraid, there's nothing wrong with being afraid, right? And we can talk about it. We can take away the power. And that's what this book does. It brings forth the opportunity for people to look at their fears, talk about them, and build connections with other people.
There you go. And one of the most important things about life, not only stories like you're talking about, but also, realizing we're not alone, that there are other people that are having maybe the same struggles we are. And that if we can work together with other people, maybe who resolved it, and this is why we have people on that write books and stuff. They've learned how to resolve what their issues are. And now they're helping it share with other people. So what are some of these fears? Are they like the fears that I have, fears of spiders and snakes and clowns?
Clowns, maybe, snakes and spiders, not so much, but it's a simple fear that like, we're not good enough.
Right?
We're not fast enough. We're not strong enough. We're not, good looking enough, or we're too good looking, or we're, all those fears inside of us of our own inadequacies. And we try to hide them, right? That's why I love Facebook. You can go to Facebook and look around. Everybody's hiding their fears by look at how good my life is.
That's true.
And all you see, you don't see people, you see their shields to protect their fears. And I love going around and looking at that and going like, if you could get a real good, a real open, honest, authentic conversation, you could really build a relationship with just about anybody in the world.
So you can use what you can analyze with about their fears to build a relationship and help them resolve those issues? Or manipulate them like a narcissist?
We don't. Yeah, well, somebody will probably try.
That sounds like something.
When we've shared our fears, in a way, we become vulnerable. Right. And at the same time, when we're vulnerable, it allows the other person to be vulnerable. Because he's kind of like me, or she's kind of like me. Has the same kind of fears. Now we have the open conversation, and those conversations build a connection that you can trust going forward. And that's the power of what the Macklin method is, to be able to build those kind of relationships. Because when we go through life together, life is pretty good. But if we have a story that we have to do it on our own, and like our culture helps that. I mean, I grew up with Clint Eastwood. My parents grew up with John Wayne. All these movie stars that, they could do everything on their own. They didn't need help from anybody. And yet we all need help.
Yeah,
we do better when we strive together.
Yeah. Plus, they had a lot of help. They had screenwriters and directors and producers.
Best boys and grips and dollies. They had all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Your Pilgrim. I can't do John Wayne. I can do it on a good day. What you doing there, Pilgrim? That doesn't sound like John Wayne at all. You go through your. I imagine part of this is rooted in your journey. Tell us about your journey and your hero's journey through your life, and what got you here.
Thanks. So I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. My first career was a football player. So I played through high school, through college, played at Kansas State. And what I learned there was like how to lead a team, like how to be on the field as a team, as a leader, and be in the field. And then when I went out into the world, I loved that part of it. I mean, I could just go play football without the pads and all the injuries and headaches. And of course, you'd have cheerleaders and all the other stuff too. But when you got out in the field, you could lead teams and produce something that was greater than what you could do on your own. So I fell into the project management of the domain. I went into, I was working in nuclear plants and coal-fired power plants, big power plants. What is it? The 1.1 gigawatts, right? We were working at 1.4 gigawatt plants.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of fun taking apart, putting them together. And that's how we started to set records, because we were having fun doing it. And we found the faster we went, the more fun we had, because you spent less time doing things over again. Right. So people having a good time doing what they're doing. And that's when I started to embrace on the target, like, how do we bring a team together of people where there's not like one person telling everybody what to do, but it's like everybody adds in, everybody puts something in, everybody gets to contribute, everybody gets to add on to what other people got. Now you have a chance that you can really do something greater than anybody or anyone could do.
Wow. And
that became my passion. Like, so as I went around, took on different groups, and I really looked for, like, what are the worst groups out there? Ones that are struggling, in terrible shape financially, or people are quitting, or they're, whatever that is.
Yeah, you're talking about Twitter, I guess, or the new X.
Well, no doubt about that. And how do you make it to where it's a fun place to go?
You fire Elon Musk? Wait, you're just talking about teams in general. It's amazing how much team building, team leadership, and all that stuff makes a difference. Is this why a lot of organizational hierarchies aren't effective as much anymore, because they either have bad teams or good teams?
Yeah, the reason that hierarchical organizations are limited is they're depending upon the knowledge of the one person at the top. Right, and I don't care who the greatest person is. Two really good people will beat them. And if you have a fundamental, you say, I've got 30 people working together that are open, trusting, vulnerable, connected, having fun, having humor, laughing, carrying on, they will outperform any hierarchy team.
Wow.
Like there's a whole book out. There's a couple books that are written on it, but Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux has like really been documenting what's happening.
Wow.
And the self-led teams are what I call the fifth business revolution. It's happening right now, and teams that want to create, and in a world where robots can do all the labor, the team that can create will win.
There you go. And being able to create, having a learning organization is really important. That was always important to me, trying to have an organization that could learn from the fifth discipline series, Peter Singe, I think it was. Yep. So you have something you developed called the Macklin connection. What makes that thing different?
Well,
what is it, I suppose.
So the Macklin connection method, which, like, the first parts of the method are really focusing on yourself. Like, it's not how do I build a connection over there? It's like, what is my stand? What will I do? What won't I do? What might I do? And when you really look at what you do, and you can just look at yourself and figure out what you do because you're doing it now, then you can choose whether you want to do that. Once you really figure out exactly what you will do, won't do, and might do, you can go out and talk to somebody else and have a space. So that's step one. What is your stand? And be your stand. Step two, right, is to go out and say, where can I be of offer of help? Not like, I'll do this for you. What tidbit of knowledge, what little thing could you offer to somebody? What kind of question could you ask? What kind of mechanics could you bring forth in a way that people could go, oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Where'd you get that? All those kinds of questions. Because I hold it like myself. I go through 3 stages in my day every day. Right? 1, I'm a plus self, which means I got to figure it out. I got to figure it out, man. I don't need help. Right? 0 self. I got to figure it out. And of course, unless Chris Voss shows up, then I'm going to listen to Chris because Chris has got the game, man. Right?
I don't know, but our guests do, but I don't.
Yeah. Well, it's your show, man. So now then you go into the minus self, which is somebody who goes, I don't have it figured out. I'm curious. I got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when you make an offer to somebody who's a plus self, are they going to listen? Do they care? No. You're looking to help them out in a way that they start to get curious. They're open to help. And at that space, then you can say, okay, step 3, where could we connect? How could we go forward? There's other steps later, but those are the first 3 steps on how to build a relationship with somebody that's based on trust and vulnerability. So therefore you can, like, the relationship will last. It'll last till you're gone.
Do we seem to have lost the art of building authentic relationships? Are we struggling with it now? I didn't hear what you're saying before because I was looking at my phone. You know what I mean? Is that one of the struggles we're having?
I see, like, when I was a young child and I hung out with my grandparents, farmers out in the world, they had much more authentic connections with people than what I see we have today.
Yeah.
Right. They really trusted, their lives depended upon the neighborhood to survive. Right. And today we've lost that interdependence, or at least we've lost the story of the interdependence. And so it's much more challenging because people aren't as committed to learning the skills of building a relationship.
Yeah. And building authentic relationships seems to be almost like a premium now. If you can do it, if you can talk to people, if you can look them in the eye, if you can, be loyal, trustworthy, some of the things you need to have a healthy relationship, it's almost like an ultra premium, really, because people don't know what to do with it. They're just kind of like, whoa.
If you want to live a good life, I don't mean like a super rich life. I mean, you want to live a life that you have like dignity and fun and connection with people so that you can share what's going on with you. It's a requirement.
There you go. That sounds overrated. I don't want that. I'm going to go with misery and unhappiness for 200, Alex. Don't do that, people. So this building authentic relationships, how does this transform into professional connections and, building teams and leading?
Many ways. Let's start with just a couple. We have a meeting, a group meeting, right? And there's 10 people in the room. And in the room, there's somebody there who is called the manager or the leader. And then you've got 10 other people there. Maybe one wants to be a manager someday, so they're going to contribute. And then one person who's like going like, I don't know what he said to me last time. I'm not going to say anything. And somebody else is going to say in the corner, like, well, I'll only speak when spoken to, because last time I did, it didn't go so well for me. And now you have this group of 10, right? In a space where one person saying something, a couple of people following it, and everybody else turtling. And I mean, turtling as in pulling back in because they don't feel it's safe. Right now, let's go forward and say, everybody in there, right, has had a vulnerable conversation, has talked about fears, and everybody has dignity because they feel respected by others. They feel open with others. Now, somebody says something in the same room, same people. Somebody says something, somebody else adds something to it. And then somebody else goes, well, if we took that and added this to it, it would be different. And then somebody else says, well, how about this? Now we're building on top of each other's thoughts, where before we had all of our thoughts just staying as stories in our heads and nobody got a chance to build on them. And now there's a trust, there's an openness. People get done. Everybody feels that they contributed. When I go to work, when I show up in a project or in a job or anything, I don't want to waste my time. I want to contribute to somebody. I want to contribute to others. I want to make a difference in the world. When everybody feels that they're doing that, creation goes way up.
Wow. Yeah. Being creative is the ultimate in business. If your teams aren't being creative and innovating and coming up with all the newest, slickest things, you're going to be behind your competitors because they are.
Well, they are. Or It's not just, I mean, there's a competition part of it. There's a profitability standpoint. That's why I have profit groups that doubled their profit, like 20 million increases years on end.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't just that. We were also voted the best place to work in Houston, Texas at the same time. And the way you get voted in on that is people vote on people who work for you, vote on whether it's a good place to work or not. Mm-hmm. They do it completely random or completely anonymous in that space. So now people loved what they were doing and we were making more money and all at the same time.
There you go.
And we had several people who didn't want to be there anymore. And so we helped them figure out a better place to go.
There you go. There's the door, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Kelly phones in the show. Yes, Facebook and social media in general is full of a fake place, full of masks. Love this conversation. Thank you, Kelly. We certainly appreciate it. One thing you talk about in the book that ties into that is the book is an invitation, the story, Fable that you tell in the book, to drop the shields, embrace learning, and discover that beneath our individual stories, we're united in our fears and our courage. Talk to us a little bit about dropping the shields. I think Kelly, you alluded a little bit to that.
Yep. So a shield, like in the military sense, it's something to protect you from what's coming at you from the enemy. Mm-hmm. And a shield that we have is like a story shield, like a story in my head. Like I'll make only those accomplishments out there that I think are good. That's the only ones I'm going to put up. Mm. I'm not going to put up, like people go, Ron, you're number 2 bestseller. You should just say bestseller. Why would I just say bestseller? Why wouldn't I say number 2 bestseller? They go, well, unless you're number 1, don't put it out there. Just put bestseller. And go like, no, I'm number 2. That's who I am. Right. That's where it's at. If I get to be number 1, I'll be number 1. Mm. Now I'm putting my shield down because I could easily hide behind bestseller. Nobody would know the difference, but that's my shield to protect me. What that does when I put my shield up, mm-hmm. I don't get to put my thoughts into the world because I'm hiding behind my shield. And when I'm working with somebody else and they got their shield up, I'm not getting their thinking. I'm not getting their openness. There's no trust. Right? There's no dignity in that. Mm-hmm. And if you want to have a really fun, powerful organization where everybody laughs a lot and invents and creates, put your shields down.
There you go. And so how does once we drop our shields with each other, mm-hmm. how do we take that into the embracing of the learning and our stories?
So then you can look at your stories. So have you ever done this where you go, well, when you said something and you go, well, it was really brilliant when it was in my head.
Yeah, that's pretty much every show.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Every joke I write in the show.
When you put it into the world, you get to find out what it is you really have in your head.
Ah, madness. Wait, right? What?
Yeah, right. Because you go, I put it out there. Well, inside my head, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was amazing. It was funny. Yeah. And I put it out in the world. You go, that wasn't quite what I thought it was.
It depends on which personality gives it to me, though.
And then somebody else goes, I like that idea. Let's add this to it.
Ah, so it's the cogenitive. What's the word I'm looking for? The collaboration. Working together on stuff.
And when 2 people both have something to put into it, how committed are they to it succeeding? Now, if somebody says, Ron, do this. Okay, I'll do it. It failed. Well, you told me to do it that way. I did it the way you told me to do it. Neck down, buddy. I don't use my head. Neck down. Now you have a whole organization of people who are just doing things because you told them to do it. Mm-hmm. And they're committed to getting it done. So, right? Where if you go, you have input into it, you actually have something at risk in the process. Now everybody's bought in. Everybody's committed into this process. Now you have this alive organization.
Because people have a vested interest in it as opposed to just taking orders.
Well, or worse yet. And that is, I'm here to, what are you working on? 5:30 to get my paycheck.
Get my paycheck of the week. I'm just trying to get 9 to 5.
9 to 5. I'm here, man. Yeah. I'm just punching the clock, doing the minimum I have to do to make it survive. Yeah. And people want, some people say, well, the younger generation wants to contribute more. I've seen everybody I've ever worked with wants to contribute to other people.
Yeah.
No matter what age they are. It's where we get dignity. We're social animals. Mm-hmm.
You talk a lot about dignity. Do you think a lot of people struggle to find dignity in work nowadays? Or, what I see a lot, I don't know if it's tied into it, but what I see a lot is people just don't care so much about their work anymore. Even when I did work for other people, I cared about the work. Because to me, it was a representative of me. It was also practice. I was like, I'm practicing for being a CEO and running my company someday. And if I can't do this good, I don't think I'll work that good on my thing. So I'm going to master this and be good at what I do because I'm practicing, I'm warming up. But now it seems like, I see a lot of people that they just don't give a shit. They phone it in. But they always want to be I want to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, well, if you work as hard at this as you do an entrepreneur, you're never going to make it as an entrepreneur. So I don't know. Is dignity the thing more people need to find in their work, or is it because they don't have the team building?
Dignity it's a very powerful emotion, very powerful situation. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of weird because we do things that can create our dignity, but we get it from other people. Mm. When I do something, right, then people will go, "That was good, man. You're dignified," or "I love that." That's dignity, right? So if you just do it, you're really well, but nobody says anything. You don't really know, right? You're kind of in a limbo space. So that you can actually offer somebody to say, "Man, that was really good." That means you're being vulnerable because you admit they may be better than you at this. Right? You're going like, "You're better at this than I am. You need to do this more and let me follow in." Oh, wait, I'm better at this over here. Self-led teams, you never know who's going to be the leader. You never know who's going to be in charge. And that gives a space for everybody to go, well, I only want to lead when I can make a difference for the team. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be a leader because I'm going like, I'm a leader, right? And I get the paycheck, right? And all that. Mm-hmm. No, I get to lead because this is my gift. This is my space. And people give you dignity because they go, man, you were good at that. That was amazing. Now that's a fun place to go to work.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too. Self-ordained leaders. I mean, I guess the cream will rise to the top, right?
And the cream will rise to the top. Yes. But does it cream? It's not like one person rises. No, it's like each person at the right moment will rise to the top.
Oh, there you go.
Right. So then like everybody gets to be a chance to be a leader and everybody gets a chance to be a follower. And which skill becomes more important? Following. Great self-led teams are really a group of powerful followers, and they want to follow and they want to lead, but only when it's their turn. And I want to be a leader. I want to lead.
There you go. So it's pretty interesting. What would you call this style of organizational structure? Like so many people would call it, things, like top down or wide. I'm trying to think of the right.
So there's a hierarchical, which you got a guy on top or a gal on top, right? And then the word comes down, right? And you got grassroots where you got everybody coming up from the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. This is what is someone called self-directed or self-led, but really it's a team approach where there's somebody who's a visionary. Now this doesn't tell them how to do it. It just says we're going to go do this. They have a visionary, somebody who will shape where we're going to go, how we're going to get there, not how we're going to get there, where we're going to end up. And then everybody else gets to figure out how to get there. What's the best way, how to create it. And in that moment, you're always looking for who has the gifts. Like we give example. I was working in a project in a business unit in Houston, Texas. And we had about 180 resources, technician resources that were out in the field. Like they traveled all the time. Mm-hmm. And we had an accountant, right? Who like we were going to like eliminate his position and move it to the headquarters, right? But this guy knew everybody's name, knew their kid's name, knew everything about all those people. Now this is an accountant. We're going to be a human resource manager. Like there's no reason to say that this was even possible except for he cared. He was able to follow. He loved to lead and help people live a good life. And he shifted over to the new position. Still doing it today. This has been 14 years ago. I think he's in his 70s now. And he loves the job. Now that creates a space that everybody that works for him in that world loves working for him. Wow. So that makes it a space where now you got to look for those jobs. Now, what do you call that organization? Some people call it teal, self-directed. There are different names for them. What it really comes down to is a team that's self-directed.
There you go.
with one visionary or maybe two visionaries, and the rest of it self-directed.
That sounds a whole lot more awesome. I like the chance that they build their own things. What is a thing you talk about with recognizing the stories in our head? What is that about?
So there's thank you. Even though I'm talking, you're filling in the gaps in between my words. Like you're always talking in your own head. In fact, the way language works is, I didn't make this up stuff. This is out there in the world. When I speak, those vibrations hit your eardrum, and then it goes through a bunch of mechanical, electrical, and chemical stuff. And then you make up a story. And that story that's in your head, that's all you. Even though I said words, what you have in your head is yours. So we look at, like, what are those stories we have in our head? And we make them there. Like, we're closed system. So everything that's in our head, all the stories, we put them there. Now, there's a bias. We talked about this already. There's a bias in that story. Fear. Right? So we're always looking at where's the danger, where's the threat. And it comes from our amygdala, over time. We've evolved where we don't have to outrun tigers and lions and all the other stuff in the world, right? But we still have that part of our brain to where we have that fear, where if something moves over here in the corner of my eye, I'm going to look at it. I don't know what it is. It might be a threat. Could be danger for me. So we look at the stories that are in our head. We take responsibility that we created them, right? And then we go, do I like that story or not?
Huh. And sometimes our stories are probably full of it. Sometimes maybe they're not, I suppose.
And only when we know that it's a story that we have in our head can we say, I like that story, or I do not like that story.
So if you don't like the stories, what do you do?
Several things. You can't erase the story. I've tried that many times with much pain.
What about shock therapy?
Yeah, well, with much pain and everything else. I'm going to forget that story. And every time I thought about it, it became more vivid.
That's true. You reinforce it in your head.
I keep reinforcing the story. So then I go, okay, so what's my new story? And I told that new story what I liked. And then over time, the other one faded.
So telling yourself better stories, maybe.
Tell yourself better stories. And build a vulnerable network around you that's authentic, right? And then you can share your stories out loud, because it's one thing to have a story in your head. It's something else to put it into the world and let it go back into your ear. And then it sits in a different spot in your brain. And now you begin to change your story, and your story's faster.
There you go. I'm going to write a book about a memoir of my life. I'm just going to lie about everything in it. And then I'm just going to put it out in the world and then believe it. And then will that work? No.
I don't think so. But you can try it. I'll be at least one person.
Did someone do that with The Art of the Deal? I don't know. I don't remember. I bought that shit one in 1986. And then in 1989, I went, this guy's full of shit. So let's see. It's the story in your head is really important. The story in your head is really important. I like how I slid that one right through there. And what we tell ourselves. What about a team? Does teams have stories? Do teams have stories they keep in their heads?
They do. We normally label that culture. Right. So we have a story and we share the stories with each other enough that become part of what we do. And that becomes our culture, which means it will probably succeed without, like, one person leaves, it will continue on because it's a culture, commonly held story. Those cultures, which is a very powerful thing, because, like, you can change the world with a powerful culture, and it can be exceptionally hard to overcome because it's so embedded inside of the people. If you don't acknowledge that the culture is there, you're never going to be able to change it.
And that probably helps with teams that are created the way you're talking about, because if somebody does leave, then the team doesn't fall apart, or the leadership that was in the team doesn't fall apart, because it can self-lead itself, right?
It can continue as long as it's allowed to continue to self-lead itself.
There you go.
Right.
Well,
but if somebody comes in and says, no, look, it's my way or the highway. We're going to do it this way now. Now, 20 to 40% of the team will probably leave within the first year, because they're going, like, I don't want to live that kind of life anymore. Then you can go the other way, but it's much more resilient because everybody comes to work every day to do a good job.
It almost seems like it's a very kind of entrepreneur, INTER, preneur sort of mindset inside of an organization where you can have people that can act like entrepreneurs inside of a company. Is that maybe a good analogy?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great analogy. We're all in that world of entrepreneur, right? Whether we're in our own company that we started and formed, or and I've been a part of a 450,000 person organization, which is a pretty good sized company.
Yeah.
But in that group, we were able to create all kinds of new thinking and new spaces and live a good life.
There you go. That was one of my things before I hit my first big company and I wrote about it in my book, was being able to be an entrepreneur at a company. And it made me feel so much more fulfilled, being able to create wherever I wanted to, being able to feel like I could contribute, and I had value. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing. Maybe you talked about the dignity, and I imagine having value and being respected plays into the word dignity, I suppose.
What I always remind myself and remind as many people as I can, money is normally the fifth reason somebody leaves a company.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about the money. It's about, do I get to contribute? Do they respect me? Do they trust my ideas? Can I make a difference? Those are the questions people are asking, whether they want to come to work or not. And if they can't see a way to get away from that, they'll stay, turtle up.
Turtle up. Explain what turtling up is. I like that term.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
just heard it.
I've watched it, right? You just pull everything back in, right? And you wait for the commotion to go along, and then you slowly slink off to the side.
Wow. So you don't stick your neck out. Don't take any risks.
You don't contribute. You just collect your
paycheck and do your thing.
Do the minimum. Do the minimum, so you don't have any reason to get fired. Don't steal. Don't do all those stuff. So you don't get fired, but you're not really adding to the company.
That's true. I see a lot of turtling business and stuff. Then I got to remember that. I've never heard that term used for that. But yeah, that does explain a lot. Everywhere I go now, I'm going to go, yeah, some turtling. So these are really interesting things. So tell us about some of the things that you offer through your consulting service. I can see a lot of stuff that you have here on your website that you offer people. Tell us about some of the ways you help coach people, consult with them, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, our fundamental offer is it's a 18-week workshop. And that sounds really long, but it's only about 2-3 hours a week. And the reason it's designed over that period of time is you got to go out and practice it, right? It's not like you're going to go do it for a weekend. It's not a weekend retreat, get away, come back, and everybody's great. And 5 days later, you don't remember what you did. This is every week for 18 weeks, you're going to have some sort of new learning, a new place to go out and practice on experiments. And we bring either a business together. We've had several big companies that have come through with us where they'll put in like 20 to 30 people at a time. And they'll go through this. And when they get to the end, what they notice is the peace, like how much peace people have with each other. The yelling goes away. The retention goes up. Even during the pandemic, we had major restaurants that their retention went from around 50% to almost 95%.
Holy crap.
In the restaurant business. Because when they came to work, they go, this place is different. This place, I want to be here. Now, what that means is people are listening to each other. They're trusting each other. They're when somebody comes in to say something to them, they don't immediately go to, well, you're a jerk and I don't want you around. They go
Sounds like my office.
They go to, okay, you may be upset. Well, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Can you explain what's going on? And then it's a listening back and forth where now people start to trust their supervisors, their managers, their other employees. And that's what happens when you go through that. Now that's our fundamental offer. We also have a coaching offer where we can come in and coach key employees. So we're normally only coaching supervisors, managers, all the way up to CEOs. And it's kind of in joint with people going through the program. So the goal is we're not just executive coaches and we're not just like the grassroots bottom training. We're every level in between. And what that does is it creates a social pressure. So the CEO is learning something and the middle management's learning something and the baseline are learning something and everybody's trying to keep up with the other guy or the other gal. And what that does is it begins to take the culture and create their own. It's not our culture. They're not taking our culture. They're creating their own culture.
Which is probably important because it will keep living on after You guys aren't training them anymore.
And we go as far as to license our program to them. So if they're 450 to 5,000 person organization, they can learn to train on their own. And the fun part is the people who are leading these programs, they always get the most learning.
Wow.
You're being responsible for somebody else's learning is where you learn the most. So we turn that role over to them in their business to do that, so they can really shape their culture as they want using our methodology. And that's why we have the coaches up here, and we have the workshop for middle to lower, and then we have what we call an arena. And what the arena is, it's a once a week Zoom call where we come together and work a real situation. So people bring a real situation and we work it. It's pretty simple, but it's a place for no judging, no authenticity, nobody telling anybody what to do. It's a place just to practice the methodology and to build connection with each other.
There you go. You guys have a program called the 4 Cornerstones of CEO Success. All right.
No. 4 Cornerstones.
No, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong website here. I'm looking at the wrong website. My bad. Scratch that. So how do people onboard with you? How do they get to know you better and what you're doing?
You can always find us on our website. You can find us on LinkedIn. Most of our business comes from somebody who's gone through the program, is recommending us to somebody else. And if you want to kind of get an idea what the flavor is like, grab the book, read through the book. Everything that we do in the methodology, everything we do in coaching, it's hidden in the book. It's like for me, it's a book full of Easter eggs. So there's all kinds of things to find and pull out as you go through that.
There you go. So give us the .com so people know where they can onboard with you, and final pitch out as we go out.
Yeah. MacklinConnection.com. It's our website for businesses to show up. If you want to just learn more about what we're doing, go to the community.mn.to. And that's a place where you can read more articles, meet more people, sign up for different stuff with us.
There you go. Well, it's been super insightful to have you on, man. It's so deep and wow, who knew there are better ways to build teams where they can lead on their own instead of having somebody just boss them around every day. And I think too many people think of the approach of that this way, and there's a much better way through what you got there in the book. Thank you for coming on the show, Ron.
Chris, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your show.
There you go. Thank you. And thanks, Ron, for tuning in as well. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. Everyone is Afraid, a Fable of Fear, Friendship, and Flourishing. Available October 5th, 2023 by Ron Macklin. Thanks for joining up. We refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1 on the Tickety Talkie. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.